What are some good ways to build up your self-confidence? Go to the movies alone. Pick a film you want to see and get a ticket. Get popcorn if you want and sit and enjoy the movie. Another time go out to eat alone at a restaurant that you are interested in. Do things like this regularly. It helps you be comfortable with making decisions and taking charge, and it helps you be comfortable in your own skin, regardless of who is around and who is looking. This forces you to make hard decisions, the movie, the restaurant, etc., and stick with them. It forces you to be comfortable in public, alone where you don't have friends to take the focus of others around you. You are there alone and everyone sees you. Going to the gym helped me tremendously with my self-confidence in depression to the point where I don't take depression meds anymore. Weightlifting in particular has helped me take control of my body and self-image. Acceptance of who you are in the present. I had lived my whole life as I'll be the person someday and always saw myself as inferior to my future self. In the last year, I finally just said, I'm not that person in the future. I'm the person I am today, and that was in regards to a dozen things. I'd always been self-conscious about my physique, for instance, and so I'd buy clothing that I'd fit into eventually, and say that who I was today wasn't as fit as I was going to be eventually, and my self-confidence suffered from it because I was always demeaning myself that my present self wasn't good enough. There was this odd moment of zen where I simply came to say this is who I am, and that's not to argue I'm not constantly bettering myself. But the moment I accepted who I was able to own up to insecurities and face things I didn't like. And in effect, you become confident in yourself, even if it's not in the ways you'd always strived for. Edit. In regards to the question of this sounding like you've given up, it's not, and I'll see if I can differentiate it a little bit. So the antonym to self-confidence would be insecurity, right? If you're always thinking of yourself as not as good as you could be in something, and you think of yourself as the future person you envision, you're sort of skirting around that insecurity by never accepting yourself for who you are, but instead accepting what you want to be in the future. And so by never really accepting yourself as you are, you're giving into these insecurities, which by the definition above, is the opposite of self-confidence. You're not confident in yourself because you're not accepting of yourself. And so by simply coming to that conclusion you will exude more confidence in what you have to offer, rather than what you wish you had to offer. You can still endeavor toward those goals, which is why it's not the same as giving up. But there's a much better feeling of acceptance of who you are, which will have trickle-down effects to how self-confident you are. That sound better? Or does it sound like I'm making excuses, lol? Alternate method to what most people here are saying. It's all good advice, but I wanted to post from a very self-critical individual's view. Every time you think or say something negative about someone else, pause. Then say maybe that person has something going on in their life that's stressing them out, and it's unfair to judge. Elevating other people is a form of elevating yourself. Every time you think or say something bad about yourself, even on self-depreciating humor, pause. Then say that's not really true. I'm a great person and I'm too critical of myself sometimes. Elevating yourself helps build confidence, but more importantly it helps mentally reduce your insecurities. People are afraid of things they don't know, and frustrated by things they don't fully understand. So work to understand your problems better and you'll know yourself better. What if I think I'm a loser? Well, let's look at that. You are you. You have X major problems in your life, and Y hindrances. With all that weight you're carrying, how can you call yourself a loser? You're doing the best you can with what you have, but you're carrying a lot of weight. So what can you do to reduce some of it? Take your minor hindrances, list them out, break them down into 5 portions, and circle the worst portion of each problem. Tonight, take an hour to make progress on those portions, even if the progress is just taking the time to think about them. What are they? What caused them? What do you have now? And what do you need to resolve them? Why? The majority of every problem you'll face in life can begin to be understood by asking what do I have, what do I need, and why? Then followed up how do I best achieve my goal? But you'll never know how to go about achieving your goals if you don't account for what you have, what you need, and why you need it. Once you start removing that weight, the world becomes a lighter place. Not every weight is easily removed, and often you'll realize you need to make sacrifices. Just a tip, The realest sacrifice you'll need to make is the weight that others put on you. If you can understand why and follow through, then everything else is a walk in the park. Learning a new skill, then getting decently good at it such that people come to you for help. Mine is building repair, for instance. I'm not a professional, but I can think outside the box, and that's helpful, impressive to people who can't. For me, it isn't other people's opinions that matter nearly as much as the feeling of being useful. Otherwise, just drill into your mind constantly that you are worthy, you are important, you are a perfectly valid human being who deserves to be happy and feel confident. If you mean as far as social interaction, I have severe social anxiety and I've totally overcome it. The secret? Force yourself to accept that no one is better than you. They might be more successful, or attractive, or whatever, but they're just a human, and you're just a human. I use that baseline for every single interaction I have. Care about people but not what they think of you. This is the perfect way to phrase those inspirational messages that say you shouldn't give a fuck what other people think. Clarifying that you still need to care about others is an important part that is often left out. All that negative self-talk must take a toll. It sounds like you're saying some pretty heavy things to yourself. It must be exhausting. I used to say the same sorts of things to myself. I was so mean to me. In recent years, I have practiced saying nice or kind things to myself to counteract the negative stuff. It's really helped me, and now my self-talk isn't anywhere near as dark. I start with a fear I have. For me it's always been worthlessness, and say to myself I am worthwhile. I am worth looking after, and add on any other positive reinforcement I need. For example, it's okay to be scared, or I am doing my best, or even I am worth pleasure. I repeat that to myself over and over while I'm heading to the kitchen to make tea, or waiting for a train, or walking into work. Perhaps this will work for you, friend. I'm sure you aren't as big of a piece of shit as you're telling yourself. You deserve love. And the best thing is that you can start by giving it to yourself, because you are worthwhile and worthy of love. Best of luck treating yourself more kindly. There's a little you inside you who could use some gentle kindness, I suspect. Do things that scare you. Could be little, could be big, could be standing on a corner giving strangers a high five, or asking out that hottie at the bar. When you take steps outside your comfort zone, you teach yourself you can handle a lot more than you thought. It makes it easier to face your fear and do things you want to do, which gives you confidence. Honestly, be kind to yourself. We live in an era of showness and connectivity with the internet and social media. People now compare themselves to people they don't know on the internet, and everyone is trying to show how much they are leading their best lives. I could go on about how cancerous this can be, but I'll stick to the point. This new age of connectivity brings a lot of information and possibility to one's fingertips, but that can be overwhelming. It allows us to see what could be, and sometimes that makes us upset that we are not. And sometimes we set expectations for ourselves that we either can't or don't meet up with. This type of cycle can create a negative feedback loop where people get hard on themselves for failing or not meeting their goals, which makes them depressed and unmotivated, which causes them to fail again because they have even less drive and motivation, and then rinse and repeat. We need to treat ourselves better. If you see a friend or family down on their luck or failing at something, would you offer them encouragement or criticize and mock them and make them feel worse? If people treated themselves like their best of friends, they'd be a lot better off for it. It sounds dumb, but I tell myself I love you every night. It helps defeat the negative talk, and if I love me, others definitely can. Also, adding to this, give yourselves hugs from time to time. Seriously, it sounds weird, but it is stated that hugging yourself releases the same kind of chemicals in your brain as when you hug someone else. Hug yourself. Love yourself. Say kind words to yourself. Forgive yourself. Take care. Y'all. And check out the book, Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It, by Kamal Ravikant. Loving yourself is the most important thing you can possibly do. Why am I crying over this at work? Maybe you realize that you deserve love, and all this made genuinely happy. I remember my mom telling me about positive affirmation when I was like 15, and I thought sounds dumb, but it truly has helped me feel better about myself. Thanks, mom. Same. When you're 15 you're like whatever, mom. You're lame 15 years later you're screaming you're enough into the mirror every morning, desperately trying to will it to be true. Cut out websites that you use frequently out of sheer boredom, but don't actually make you happy. This applies to 80% of people on Twitter and 90% of people on Facebook. Instead of trying to convince yourself to become confident, go learn to do something. Anything, really. Just pick a skill you've always wanted and start learning about it. Practice it. Invest in it. Confidence is a side effect of being good at something. Confidence without competence is, really, arrogance and ignorance. Confidence without competence is, really, arrogance and ignorance. What a beautiful quote. Just know it's okay to be confident in yourself without having many skills. Just be confident in who you are. I really think the above beautiful quote is why so many people have such low confidence. Chances are you'll never be the best at something. There doesn't have to be a tangible skill that you point to in order to be confident. And I think the distinction between confidence and arrogance isn't reputation or skill level, but just in the way you display it. I believe faking confidence in yourself, whether others think it's founded or not, will lead to real results and thus real confidence. Edit. Several people have disagreed, noting that no one actually expects to be the best, and that there's a difference between competency and complete mastery. This is true and valid. I just said the best as a hyperbole to illustrate the point. Chances are you won't be the best and it's very possible that you won't be even competent, but you'll never know unless you fake some confidence in your abilities to begin with. If you don't think you'll ever be a competent chef, you will never be a competent chef, period. Also, of course you will fail along the way, but if you don't have the belief that you'll work through it, then you just won't. You would quit. You don't have to be the absolute best at anything, but you should at least try to be competent in something. Yeah, it's proficiency not being the best. Our society makes it feel like you're trash if you're not Instagrammable. Being proficient at something is enough to be confident. Confidence. It's the food of the wise man but the liquor of the fool. A good fashion sense. I'm a guy and I got a few girls that I'm friends with to help me with my style. It helps a lot. I feel much more comfortable and even some girls have been flirting with me more too. Good fashion ups your self-confidence by a lot. Stand up big and tall, but don't make it look unnatural. Talk loud and clear to people. Let others and yourself know that you have strength and power. I saw this video once where it said that people who make themselves bigger, literally bigger, before situations where they might seem underconfident were able to be more confident, if that makes sense. I saw it in a public speaking class one time. For example, before an interview or even before talking in front of a group of people. Stretch yourself out. Get big. Don't be hunched up in a ball. That would translate to you feeling less confident if you were sitting bent over all nervous. I don't know if that helps, or if it's what you were asking, but that seems to help me feel confident in a nerve-wracking situation. This is a big one. The stretching yourself out is a great way to put it. It's like you're decompressing and saying, alright then, let's have a go.